Welcome to Cisco Tech Beat, the podcast that explores the people and stories behind what inspires the newest innovation. I'm your host, AB, and I am thrilled to welcome my special guest, Kelly Jones, Chief People Officer at Cisco. Kelly leads the People and Communities organization, focusing on developing and using data-driven, people-focused solutions that are key to Cisco's business changes, culture, and vision. Kelly, welcome to Tech Beat.
Thank you so much. I have to say, I feel like I've arrived. I finally made it on the Tech Beat.
You did. I've been waiting for this for so long, and the fact that we were able to do this in person is actually very cool here at Cisco Live 2025, Amsterdam.
Yes, great time to do it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to talk about work, and I want to talk about like the evolution of work, because, and when I say evolution, I mean not just the workplace, but how people work, because it seems like there have been a lot of changes over the years. And so I'm curious, as a 20-year professional in the field, what are some of the most significant changes you've seen over time? And then maybe what are some of the most recent changes that we're seeing in the workplace?
Yeah, it's been really fascinating, just the amount of change that I've seen in the time that I've been working in the people space, but in particular in the last 5 years. You know, obviously the biggest disruption was hybrid work.
Yeah.
And for Cisco, that maybe didn't feel like as much of a disruption because we knew how to do that. But certainly it disrupted the entire ecosystem. And I think what it did that was really interesting, it's less about where you work and it's more about employees feeling a sense of advocacy for what and how they work. Despite the mandates, what we're seeing is people are leaving jobs, for that reason, oftentimes making less money to be able to have some choice.
Sure.
People want advocacy and choice in their work. Another really fascinating one that I've seen mostly over the last 5 years has been the change with having so many generations in the workplace. There's a difference, and I know there are a lot of stereotypes attached to each generation.
Right.
Some true and funny, some not true. They're there, but there is a definite difference in what they are expecting. When I think about generations that are coming in now and their expectations of an employer, they're very different.
Right.
They're looking for us to step up in ways when it comes to overall employee well-being, when it comes to being a company for good.
Yep.
That matters. When you actually poll the generations on down, I think the boomers are the least, they rate, doing good the least that they're looking for.
Sure.
But like the generation coming in now, Gen Y, it's the highest. And so there are really shifting demographics and employee expectations that I think employers just need to be aware of and kind of continuously understand how they're going to respond to.
Absolutely. And I think, we're the perfect company to work for because that's something that we're definitely aware of, and we're doing our best to make sure employees feel as good as they can feel at work.
Yeah. It's my mission in life.
I love it.
I have the best job at Cisco.
Yes, you do. Love that. So let's talk about the workplace and keep with that theme of changes, because you just recently penned a trends blog where you highlight what you think are the 4 upcoming trends in the workplace. So would you mind sharing those with us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And you might have noticed that I really said 2025.
Yeah.
Because I think anybody that tells you, here's what's coming in 5 years is either reckless or wildly uninformed about the pace in which technology is changing.
Right.
So the conversations I'm having with other CHROs about how do we plan for this, really the best way to think about it is imagine a couple possible scenarios and plan. No one knows for sure. But when we think about 2025, there are really 4 key things that I isolated. One of them was around, and I'm particularly excited about this, the hyper-personalization that we're going to have with AI. And if you take an example, imagine a world whereby you're sitting down with your leader, you're having a performance conversation, and in that performance conversation, you identify something with your leader that you feel like you want to work on in your development plan for the next year. You hang up that phone, because hopefully you're doing that live or on the phone, and then automatically you get something that pops up and says, AB, you identified this thing. By the way, here are 3 ways to do this. Would you like for me to connect you up with this course? And here's how we're going to measure it. And here's how we're going to put it into your flow of work. So this hyper-personalization.
Sure.
You could also pull this into something like how we think about well-being and benefits, like what you need in the moment. Because the reality is, as we change throughout our lives, as we age, we need different things.
Right.
So understanding and having the interventions in the moments that you need them is pretty powerful. And then the second one was really about learning and the role that learning is going to play over the next year. And some of this is driven by, the rise of AI.
Sure.
And I would actually argue that leaders should be continuous learners all the time.
Agreed.
Anyway, what we're seeing, though, is this need to kind of readdress in a world where we have these systems who are going to perform tasks better than humans. So then what does that do to our our capacity and what we need to be focusing on, it kind of changes the things that we need to be upskilling ourselves on. So this idea of continuous learning and learning in the flow of work,
Right.
which is not we've kind of gone away from the traditional watch this video for 60 minutes and answer.
Yeah,
I think
it's a little
people are
tiring.
happy about that.
Yeah.
To more microbursts of learning. Microbursts have shown to have higher stickiness
Sure.
when people actually participate in them. We're also seeing the rise of gamification in
Yeah.
learning. And I think the trick is always to teach people without them feeling like they're being taught, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. And so that's the evolution that we're really seeing in learning. And then the third one is a really interesting one for me because it's this idea soft skills are now hard skills. And I'll have to admit, I have a bias here as a leader, as a people leader, and a leader of people teams.
That's right.
I've always felt like these soft skills, what people call them, are hard skills.
I agree.
So things like, empathetic leadership, creative thinking, communication,
Sure.
our ability to connect to our teams. You're going to see a rise of these soft skills in the era of AI. And then the last one, I was real fortunate to do a panel on yesterday with one of our Wellbeing partners, Wellbeing. And Wellbeing has been around for a while. It's not new.
Right.
Wellbeing is something that we've always had robust programs that focus on how to allow our employees to holistically be well, whether
Sure.
it's financial, emotional, physical. But I think what's changing in the well-being conversation is this idea that we can now draw a pretty straight line from well-being to the performance of a company. And so the narrative is moving on this from well-being is just a nice thing to do
Sure.
and it feels soft and squishy to
Sure.
it's actually a business imperative. Because when your employees are well, they have higher engagement, they perform better, they're more productive. Your employees performing better and being highly productive leads to better outcomes for our customers. So now that we can draw that direct line, what I'm seeing is the conversation on well-being is moving towards this is a business imperative for us. And I'm seeing more companies lean in an active way to ensure that they're hitting these needs for their employees.
That's amazing. And I think it's important for companies to know that, they're not mutually exclusive. Better business and employees who feel good about their jobs. I mean, that can go hand in hand and should go hand in hand. So,
yes.
yeah.
And you're absolutely right. We need to break this narrative of you either take care of your people or you perform well. These
Right.
things are connected.
And I love the soft skills thing. Just, sometimes you look at your resume and it's like, oh, I have so many soft skills.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think soft skills are becoming more and more important because, if you can't function around people doing things that are not always technical or always specific to some kind of a skill set, then, how are you going to be a good employee? How are you going to work
You're
well?
absolutely right. And in this space of leadership, it's ironic because with all of the changes we're having with technology, what we're actually looking to our leaders to do is be deeply human.
Yeah.
And so it really leans into this idea of how do we create deeply human leaders?
Absolutely. We're talking about leaders, and one of the things that I know is important to you is having empathy as a leader. So empathetic leadership is something that I kind of want to dive into because I believe that there's a good business case for having empathetic leaders. What's your take on how empathy can drive better business?
I first want to tell you a quick story, if you don't mind.
Oh, I never mind.
So I get this question often about if you had a magic wand and you could do anything at Cisco, if you could just wave it and it would happen, what would it be? And that's a big question. And my answer to that is always, I would make every people leader at Cisco like best leader in the world. That's what I want us to be known for. And the reason is people leadership is so core to everything.
Yeah.
We experience our culture through our leaders. We talk a lot about company culture. It's not what you say you are on a slide.
Yeah.
It's the how you feel Sunday night, how you feel Monday morning. And a lot of that is driven by your leader. And I can look back personally and say, when I've had great leaders, oh my gosh, life is good. But you get a bad
great.
one. That's the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
And so people leadership is everything. And
Yeah.
the thing about empathetic leadership, and the reason that would be my magic wand question is, we have a lot of data at Cisco, obviously,
Yeah.
and our people intelligence team, we kind of understand how our employees are feeling. We have a lot of listening and sensing data, but we also have a lot of correlation data between how leaders are showing up and how employees are showing up. And we know that employees who feel like their leaders actually care about them as a human are 3 times more productive and they're 3 times more engaged.
Wow.
And that is huge. And so that is it's a completely free engagement lever that we need to be able to pull. And so when I think about empathetic leadership, for me, it's about understanding your team, getting to know them. Leadership is one of those things where you can't phone it in.
Right.
You absolutely, it's not some magic thing
Yeah,
where,
totally.
Sometimes people think this about authors, like you get the inspiration and
Yeah.
beautiful things pour out of you. It does not work that way. It's time, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
It's getting in there every day and doing the work. And leadership is the same, getting to know your team. And, it's interesting. The World Economic Forum just published
Yep.
a recent post on what are the critical skills for the future. And it's probably not a surprise when we think about our comment earlier, conversation about the top 4 trends. All those skills fall kind of under the soft skill category, and they underline the need for leadership. It's around creative thinking, critical thinking, the human side of what we do, communication, empathy, those things that really differentiate us. And so I think leadership is everything. And when we look at like what we're focusing on as a people team, we're putting a lot of energy as a people team at Cisco, but also a 3P team into how do we redefine leadership at Cisco and ensure we have the best people leaders on the planet, which also means supporting them. That's
absolutely
the other side of it. I want to just recognize that all the changes we talked about earlier in the world and what employees are expecting, nothing's changed more than leadership. If you think about it, it used to be deliver performance results for your business. And now we're saying deliver performance results, but also, you're kind of a career coach and a marriage therapist and a therapist and a physical,
it's all encompassing.
It's all encompassing because the walls between work and life are kind of gone. And some of the leaders might not have been prepared for that. And so how do we support them in how they do that? And how do we also remove friction? And this is something that Fletcher, our CTO, I love the fact that he and I actually have the same mission, which is to make work better for all the humans in our ecosystem.
Sure.
And we look at it through the lens, he looks at it largely through the lens of through the tools and technology, how do you remove the friction? Just make it easier. And so I look at that friction removal through leadership as well, in terms of how do we enable them to do it and also remove the noise and the drudgery so that they can be better leaders, which is something that we're really focused on our team.
I love that. And I love the enablement part because it's not just a mandate like, hey, you've got to be a better person and a better leader. Go do it. It's like, let's give you the tools and let's help you be your best self so that you can then in turn be a great leader.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. So I want to stick on the leadership theme just a little bit more because you're really known to be a great leader who really empowers her employees. So as you think about how you develop future leaders, what are some of the skills that come to mind that you've either employed or that you think of that leaders really need to have?
Yeah, that's a great question. And can I make one comment about your question before I answer it?
Yes.
You said something I think that is really important. I think as leaders, one of the biggest responsibilities we have is to prepare the next generation of leadership. And so when I look at the leaders on my team, I expect they're going to have a succession plan for their role. And at any time, be ready to move out and have someone step in and be able to do it. And one of the biggest ways that we do that is by getting out of the way. Sometimes we just need to get out of the way and allow our team to step up and do this work that maybe we do. And that's creating opportunities for them. So I just starting there because I think that's really important.
Sure.
When we think of the skills, the first thing I would say is leadership is, in many ways, it's a service job. You are in service of others. When you accept a people leadership role, you are there not just to perform and do well, but if your team performs well, then you are doing well. And
Absolutely.
so number one is training leaders to understand that when they become a people leader, it's not so much about you anymore. It is literally about your team. So how do you bring your team along to achieve the results that we need for Cisco? In terms of some of the specific skills, definitely empathy. We talked about that one before, that human connection, getting to know that team. I think there is a huge piece in this around how do we pull our teams through what's coming over the next 5 years. And I know we talked about it's impossible to predict what the workforce is going to look like. But I do think that we can say with certainty that leaders of the future will be managing a hybrid workforce. And I don't mean location. I mean hybrid in terms of you will have human, you will have the agentic side. Eventually, you're going to have the human augmented side.
That's right.
And so preparing leaders to lead through this lens of leading self, which is we can't lead others unless we can lead ourselves. Leading bodies of work, which is this blended piece, and then leading teams. So we're really going to be looking at developing these skills. How do we deliver work through those multiple lenses, which is going to be different. And it's going to require a deep level of empathy, because if you think about the human experience, and I don't mean to get too terribly existential on this, but humans work in many cases for a paycheck, but they also work for purpose. Human beings from the beginning of time have had to work to survive.
That's right.
And so when you think about a world where the agentic agents actually do this work better than we do, what becomes the purpose of humans and how does work evolve? And so creating leaders who are deeply human to be able to take our workforce through this change is going to be incredibly important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I also think resilience, I'll throw that in there. My one big thing with Cisco, I've been here for almost 18 years and I'm on job number 13 at Cisco. And one thing I will tell you, every job I've had and every leader I've interviewed, resilience is critical. We work in an ever-changing world. We work for a very dynamic company.
That's right.
Cisco skates where the puck is going, not where the puck is. And so being able to adapt and have that resilience is critically important.
Skates where the puck is going. I like that phrase. I'm going to borrow that. I'm going to steal that, actually. I'm not going to borrow it. I'm just going to take it.
It's yours.
Thank you. So we've talked about well-being in the workplace, and I want to shift things a bit and go outside of work for a moment, talking about well-being in the home life situation. So when you're not at work and you're looking to sort of decompress or just get away from the noise, are there any tactics or maybe even hobbies or activities that you're involved in that help you achieve what you would consider well-being for you?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question for so many reasons, because I have a whole strategy I'll share with you.
Okay.
I also love it because when we talk about unlocking well-being at work, one of the best ways to do it is by modeling it. And I say this to leaders all the time. Talk about your day off. Talk about what you do to make yourself whole. You don't need to show up to your team as this, autonomous agent that's supposed to know everything all the time.
Right.
That's not the role of leadership. For me, and it's different for everyone, I have kind of a multi-dimensional what keeps me well. You could call it kind of the four-legged stool. And if any one of them gets removed, I can always tell a difference in my health. One of them is getting outside every day and moving. And I live in Colorado. And so Colorado is 360 days a year of sunshine. And so
love it.
I have to get out every day, and I have to move my body, and I have to get in the sun.
Sure.
And I know this about myself. I go 2 days without sun and I turn into a very different person.
Right.
The next is sleep. And this is one that people talk about it a lot, but I underrated this for probably the first 20 years of my career.
Sure.
And it's just this idea that it felt a little bit like a luxury.
Yeah.
Like, I'll sleep whenever the time comes.
Right.
And the reality is, if you work and you're a parent, I'm lucky to be the parent of a gorgeous adult child at this point. She's so smart and beautiful and funny, and I love her so much. But she was a young child when I worked here at Cisco. So when you're a working parent and you have friends and family and other interests, and I volunteer, all of that takes your time. And so all of that takes your time away from sleep. But I've gotten very protective now about my sleep. And so I will, my friend bought me this thing for Christmas I love. It's a coaster that says, please leave by 9. And it's a joke, but it's not. It's like, I got to get to bed and advocating for that sleep. And I'll say to my friends, I love you and you got to go.
Yeah. It's
8:58. Yeah, you got to get out of my house. So sleep is the second part of that stool. The third is something that, for me, I picked up during the pandemic, and it's been a deeply useful tool. And that is, there's this book called The Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday.
Stoic. I don't know. No, but
yeah, I'm not paid to sponsor this book, but this is going to sound like I am. The Daily Stoic is basically, it's almost like a Bible meditation book. You were little and they would give you
and you kind of read.
Yeah, you'd read the passage and tell you what the passage meant. It's kind of modeled after that. And it's essentially based on the premises of Stoicism, which is about how to be a good human. Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations to himself, trying to train himself on how to be a good emperor. So he never meant to publish it, but essentially that's kind of the root of the Daily Stoic.
Sure.
So the reason it resonates so much with me, without going too much down a rabbit hole, is there is a premise in Stoicism around, focus on what you can control and influence, and don't pre-suffer with worry. Because there's so much complexity in the world right now. And I think all of us felt out of control during the pandemic.
Sure.
I felt out of control.
Sure.
It was very unknown. We had this condition that we didn't know who it was coming for, and it was coming for all of us, and we didn't see an end to the light.
That's right.
That tunnel, and all the things that kept us whole were getting stripped out. And so during the pandemic, I discovered the Daily Stoic, and every morning I have a ritual where I wake up early. I'm a morning person. I'm not a night
same here.
person.
Oh, I'm a morning person too.
Hence the leave by 9.
That's right.
I wake up early. I do an enormous cup of water, and then I get a mug of hot water, and I read the Daily Stoic before I start my day. No electronics. I start it with that reading. And then the last thing I would say that is really important to me is surrounding myself with the people that nourish me. And that is, it's my husband, but it's also my friends. I'm very fortunate in life to be blessed with just a super quality group of friends. And so anything in life that is of value, I think you have to put time into it. And so I view my social connections, and I don't have a huge bank of friends. I was joking with someone the other day. They said something about, I know 15 people in this room. I'm like, gosh, I probably have 15 close friends in the world, but they're very, very important to me. And so allocating that time to spend with my friends.
I love that. I mean, and you're right. It's not the number of friends. It's the quality of the friends. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Do they help you be the best version of yourself?
Exactly.
That you can be.
I love that. And the Daily Stoic, I need to look at that because I actually read a book. It's not as deep as that, but it's called Daily Mindfulness. And every day, what I like about it is it has a day of the year for the whole year without the actual calendar year. So you could just keep using the book over and over. And each day it could literally be just a motivational sentence. It could be an activity of just like taking 5 minutes to breathe and feeling, just feeling yourself calm down. But it's just something to kind of prepare you for the day and get you in that cool mindset so you can tackle whatever is going to come your way.
I love that. When did you start that practice?
I started that when I started at Cisco in September of 2021.
Oh, wow.
Or was that 22? I don't even remember. I can't even remember anymore. But I started it pretty soon after I got the job at Cisco, and it's been really good. And I actually feel guilty on the days that I either forget the book when I go somewhere or I just don't do it. So it's something that's really grounding, and it takes no time.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much time to like escape and ground yourself and get yourself ready for the day, right?
That's right. It's a few minutes. And I think sometimes people miss that in the spirit of being busy. You know, like it's a few minutes that can make the difference for your whole day. I love that you do that.
Yes. I love that I do it too. It's been great for me. Well, Kelly, this has been such a fantastic conversation. I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me today and sharing your thought leadership and your insights and into work and into life. And I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I so appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I'm sure we'll see each other again soon.
I'm sure. Thanks so much.
You got it.